really good for if you don't have a CAT system.
And I
And
don't at the moment. I have Eclipse students, so.
okay, I don't know much about their student version.
Good evening. It's very limited.
Oh, is it
Yes,
really?
yes. Like
Huh.
you only get like 25 or I think it's 35 pages a job, but which is okay. But I mean, after then it cuts you off, and that's just so.
Yeah,
But I use yeah,
we don't do that. All of our evaluations and our student software is the whole software. Because if you're going to learn it, you might as well learn everything,
exactly,
and you might as well be able to use it on actual work before you
exactly,
buy
because there's
it.
features
You
that aren't
know,
there, and yeah. So I mean, I'm actually going to look into AudioScribe software, because
well, feel free. It's good to try. You know,
right.
it's good to try everything
Hmm.
and see what it is you like best and see who you like dealing with the best, because you also need to kind of like your cat company, because
Right.
they're going to be in your life for a long time,
Exactly.
and
Hence
you
why I
want,
have AT&T and not Spectrum,
yeah, exactly.
because I don't like dealing with
Exactly.
Spectrum.
I had an exterminator come over today, and I had just switched companies. And first we did the regular pest control, and then we're putting in the termite, prevention, because we're
Right.
in a termite area. We don't
Mm.
have termites, but in the past there have been termites here. So I figured, why not get on that prevention? And so he was here doing that today, and we were talking, and they actually make it very affordable. And so I said, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you being honest, and I appreciate you giving me a break here and there where you can, and just being outright forthright. I
Hmm.
said, it's so difficult these days to deal with people. I said, I came from another house. I moved from my former house to this house, and my exterminator wanted to charge me for an entire new service.
Yes. Why do they do that?
I
That's
was
what they
like,
did to me too.
you know what? I said, It's one thing if you need to look around
Right.
and say, well, it might cost you more every month because it's a bigger place.
Right.
That would be fine. But
Yeah.
they were like, oh no, you have to pay the $250
Down
initial.
payment
I was like,
again.
oh no,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
no, I don't. I
Hmm.
said, I don't have to pay that at all. I don't have to have you. So
Hmm.
I said, that's not customer appreciation at
Yep.
all.
Yep.
I said, so, you're not the kind of people I want to do business with. And
Hmm.
so I said, yeah, you can forget it. Ending my contract, going with somebody else.
Yep.
And not because they didn't do a good job, because they did do a
Right.
good job,
Right.
but I just got tired of dealing with the company, and the the like the mindset there. The whole mindset is not customer friendly. Like I would dread calling them because they were so rude.
Exactly.
You shouldn't have to deal with people that you don't like if you don't want to,
Exactly.
and it just makes life harder. There's Kim. Okay.
And I have a question really quick before we start, if you don't mind.
I
I have
don't mind.
I have both Word and WordPerfect on this phone, but my Dragon is set up to go to Word. How do I get it to go to WordPerfect instead? Do you know?
I,
I
I'm
mean,
not.
that's more of a Dragon question than a WordPerfect question.
Yeah,
So,
I haven't really used Dragon with WordPerfect, so I'm not sure, but I can look
okay.
into that for you.
Okay.
Because
You don't have to. I mean, if you don't know the answer, it's really not a problem. I'll just ask my instructor and maybe they can tell me how to do it. But
yeah, it
we'll
should be
see.
easy. Like there's a plugin for
Right.
Word,
Right.
And if you have that enabled, I would think it would work with either word processor, but since it specifically says Word,
Right.
maybe it doesn't.
I mean,
But
right now I'm cutting and pasting and it's working fine. So
oh,
that's
good,
not,
good.
it's not hindering me in any way. So,
Well, just a little hint. If you save a Word document as an RTF,
RTF.
yeah, rich text format, then you can bring it into WordPerfect, no problem.
Okay.
Oh, an RTF document can be opened in Word or WordPerfect. All you have to do is right click on it and do open with and tell it, WordPerfect as opposed to Word, and it'll open it just fine.
I'm writing that down. Thank you.
Yes. As a matter of fact, there was a time I tell this story because I find it hysterical. There was a time, and it was long ago. I think it was at WordPerfect version 6. So it's a long time ago. But Word and WordPerfect were so competitive back then that WordPerfect did a better job of opening Word documents than it did of opening its own documents.
That sounds about right.
And the same was true for Microsoft Word. I had a good laugh about it, actually. Kimmy, are you here?
I think she left again. Maybe she was having audio login problems.
I don't see her.
Yeah.
Oh, she must have popped off. Okay, well, it's after 6, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. And anybody can pop in with us.
Sure.
But it's recorded too, so nobody will miss anything.
Excellent.
Okay. We want to get started with line numbering. So let's see if that's what we're going to talk about tonight is basically setting your margins, turning on line numbering, creating a header and footer, adding graphics like a federal box or 2 lines on the left and 1 line on the right. I call those graphic lines. Use of reveal codes. I love reveal codes. I mean, really, WordPerfect, their reveal codes are so good that if I have a problem with a Word document, I save it as an RTF and I open it in WordPerfect and I go to that area where I'm having trouble and I can actually see the codes. Where in Word, I can't see the codes. I
Right.
can see spaces and tabs and section breaks, with the show hide on, but I cannot see the detail that WordPerfect gives you. And it is that detail that I believe is why court reporters, here's Kimmy. That is why I think court reporters love WordPerfect. Hi, Kimmy.
Hello.
So good to see your face, honey.
I know. I forgot my other laptop didn't have a camera on it. So
I was like, wait a minute, where did Kim go? Kim, meet Christine. Christine, meet Kim.
Hi
look,
there.
where are you located?
I'm in Orlando.
Oh, how nice. I'm in North Carolina, not quite as warm.
I'd trade you.
No, but beautiful. So beautiful.
And where are you, Miss Adria?
I am in Southwest Louisiana, in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Okay. Okay.
About 2 hours northwest of New Orleans.
Okay. Nice.
My sister lives in New Orleans, so we go down there a bit. But it's such a crazy city. You can't go anywhere quickly, and you have to wait. That's big city stuff.
That's how it is here now. It never used to be like that, but every place you want to go to, even when I leave and I want to take my son to school, it takes 35 minutes and it's less than a half a mile down the street.
Wow.
It's insane.
I
It's
can relate to
insane.
that. You know, things have changed for us ever since the storms
Mm-hmm.
in, what was it, 2019 and 2020. We had so many bad storms, so much destruction.
Mm-hmm.
There was destruction in New Orleans, there was destruction in Lake Charles, and we are dead center.
Oh,
There was
wow.
destruction in Baton Rouge. So we are in the center of the state, and we're sort of just blessed, I have to say,
Yeah.
because we never get it super bad. I mean, I needed a new roof, but it's not
Don't
like
finish
water
that.
was pouring down in my house. It wasn't. There was one little drip, you know. I mean, I remember when I called to report that there was a problem with my roof, I was like, okay, so do not come to me first. I can wait. You know, I
Yeah.
said, go see all those people that have water in their homes. I
Mm-hmm.
said, I had my husband go up on the roof and find the leak and put that Flex Seal paint on it,
Mm-hmm.
and that wrapped it up right there. So I said, as far as it dripping in the house, that's not happening. So please go take care of other people that are living with horrible conditions. And so it was a good year after the storm that I finally got a new roof. Okay, enough about me and my issues. Let's talk about WordPerfect. One of the things that I was telling Christine Kim right before you popped back in is that if you save a document as an RTF, a rich text format, whether you're in Word or WordPerfect, if you save it as a rich text format document, you can then open it in the other software and just have your way. And I was also telling Christine that one of the things that I do frequently is if I have a problem in a document and it's causing issues and I can't figure out why. Like I've looked, I can't figure out, it looks like there's an error in the way it looks, but I cannot for the life of me figure out why it looks that way, right? So I was telling her that oftentimes I will open it up in WordPerfect and go to reveal codes.
I love reveal codes. It's one of the reasons I prefer WordPerfect over Word.
That and macros.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two abilities that Microsoft Word cannot compete. They're the macros, and I'm going to teach you macros tonight, but what I'm going to teach you is your basic how to create a macro and then how to make multiple macros work together, which is cool and easy. But there are so many things that macros, that the macro ability in WordPerfect has, it would blow your mind. There are some things that I never learned how to do, but I just need to learn how to do it. One of the things that I love, and like I said, I don't remember how to do it right this minute, but at one point I had a macro made that would allow you to put in the header the name of the witness. You know how sometimes you have to do that? Some people require the name of the witness in the header. I think that the people that have required it in the past are mostly officials.
That's what, yeah, they require it with us.
Yeah, and they want that name so that you know who's being examined on the top of every page. At first I didn't understand it, but it does make good sense when you're reading the transcript to say, well, if I want to go to witness number 3, what was her name? Oh, Joan Smith. Okay. There we go. Joan Smith at the top of the page without having to search it. That really does make good sense to me. So we're going to talk about that as well. We're going to talk about the use of reveal codes. We're going to talk about creating and using macros. And we're going to talk about adding graphics and the header and footer. So let's get started. Okay, setting your margins. I am going to go ahead and share my WordPerfect screen. And I'm just going to do it. I'm going to walk through doing it. So I would go to Format, Margins. And the margins are pretty simple. The left, you can do whatever you want. Most people do at least 1.5. Some people do as much as 2 points. It really just depends on your state. The right, you can leave at 1 or you can go down to even 0.5. I don't like to go any lower than that because then we're getting really close to the edge of the page. And I don't really like getting that close to the edge of the page because, you know, if I were a court reporter, I would be thinking about my client. And I would think, well, if the client wants to thumb through it, then you need that thumb space so that you're not holding over text. So that's why I like 1 inch, because my thumb fits at 1 inch. I have big hands. So, so I would leave it at 1, but that is completely up to you guys. I set the top margin usually about 1.3 and the bottom at 1.3. That's where I start. And that normally, if there's no specific line height, that will give me 25 lines per page.
And that's what we have to have, or 25 lines.
Right. And that's most people these days. It used to vary a lot more from state to state. There's still some states that do 22, 23, and 24. But the majority of people across the United States, and indeed across the world, do 25 lines per page. Okay. I'm going to pop into the layout just to have a look at it. We have two-sided printing off. We have increase margin for left. It's off. So I don't use any of this on this side. I only come here to page setup. There's only one other thing I like to make sure that I'm on letter and not legal. And page definition and orientation applies to current and following pages. So I want it to apply to everything, in other words. And then I just click on OK. That's easy peasy. Okay, moving on to inserting a header and footer. Okay, so headers and footers, I generally use a header and footer for page numbers. And page numbers can be in the header or the footer. It really depends on you or your state guidelines. In the footer, sometimes there will be the court reporter information or a phone number where they can reach the court reporter that did the transcript, or sometimes it just says the name of the jurisdiction, you know. So it really doesn't matter, but normally there is something in the header and the footer on every transcript that I've seen. So I'm going to start with a header. So I'm going to go insert, header, footer, and then it comes up with this little header footer box. And it says, okay, so header A, header B, footer B, what do you want? Well, I want to do header A. And if you look at the bottom of this little screen, it says align with document margins. I want that checked, because if it's not checked, then I have to go in to margins inside my header and footer and make it match my margins, because I don't like it to be different. I don't like the header and footer to extend beyond the margins. I think when you do that, you start getting into dangerous waters and things start happening, like what Leslie was talking about Monday night, where text appears way off the margin. Like, and you don't even know that there's a missing word until or unless you view it or you print it out. So I always do that. And we're going to do create. Then it gives me my little header footer. And so I'm going to go to insert, no, format, sorry, format, page. I'm going to slide over and down to numbering. Okay, insert, no. What are you? Format, page, insert page number. Sorry about that. Okay, so WordPerfect gives you all sorts of options. Like you can actually say, just give me my plain page number. You can add the chapter to it, which we don't use chapters. We don't use, sometimes we use volumes. The military uses volumes. I don't know if you guys do. If it's a huge trial, then you may have to use volumes, but it's not something I hear a lot of except for in the military. Secondary page, total pages. I don't use any of that. I just do a simple page number and I do insert. And then for myself, I always go ahead and go to the justification and I justify it right because I like the page number on the right. And then I can close this and it's as easy as that. And I just click outside of the header to get out of the header. So there's my line, my page number. There are times when you have to format your page number to begin. Well, if you had multiple volumes, you would have to format your page number to begin at, let's say, page 251. So we would at that point go in back into our header. We would highlight our page number, and we would right click on it. Do we right click on it? Or we might go over here to format page numbering. Why is it not coming up and letting me format it? Format page. I guess I could suppress it if I wanted to. My first page, but that's not what we're doing. Force page. I wonder if that's it. I think it's going to the line numbering, but it's not showing me anything, and maybe that's because I'm on the first page. So we'll come back to that a little bit later, formatting the page number, because it should be letting me in to do that, and it's not. So let's talk about, writing macros.
That's what I want.
So fun. Okay, macros are a blast in WordPerfect. We're going to go to Tools, Macro, Record Macro. And it's going to come up to our macro manager and say, okay, what would you like to call this macro? And because Christine doesn't have a cat, I want to show her how she can create her markers so that you can assign, like, maybe, Control Q or something, and it'll put in your question macro. So I'm going to call this question marker. Guess I should call it insert question marker. Okay, and I'm going to click on record. Now, in WordPerfect, your cursor turns into this little, I don't want to play with you symbol. When you start a macro, I'm not quite sure why. What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a tab. I'm going to type in a Q. I'm going to type in a period, and I'm going to type in a tab. And that's as simple as it is. That's all I want, unless I want an indent. Normally that's with speakers. So I'm going to just go ahead and stop my Q macro right here. And I can now go in and assign a key to that macro. And that's what we need, because we're using the mouse and going to tools, macro, play, insert question marker. That's not fast. That's not saving you a bit of time. It'd be faster to go tab, Q period, tab. But it would be faster if we assign it to a hotkey. So let's do that. We're going to go to tools and settings. And then we're going to go to customize. And then we're going to go to keyboards. And then we're going to go to edit. And now I'm going to go and pick something. I'm going to go and look for the Q first. Okay, so I can use Alt Q. That's not used. Control Q is being used in WordPerfect. So how about we do Alt Q? That sound good?
Yes.
So I'm going to select the Alt Q, and I'm going to go over here on the right side. I'm going to click on macros, and I'm going to click on assign macro to key. And now I'm going to go find my insert question marker, and I'm going to select. And now it says save macro with full path question mark. Yes. Now I'm going to click on OK and close and close. And I'm going to hit enter a few times, and I'm going to do Alt Q. Ha ha.
That's what you want.
I like that.
That is so much fun. Now let's do a harder one. Now we're going to do speakers, and we're going to assume that your speaker needs to be indented by an inch, and then it has to have a tab in front of it too. We're going to make it really hard. That's like the hardest configuration to duplicate, and it's the Louisiana configuration. That with that 10 spaces, then another tab, then the speaker begins, and then it's new line, tab, and text begins.
Wow.
That's a lot going on. A lot. So let's see if I can do it. Okay, I'm going to get on a new line, and I'm going to go tools, macro, record, and I'm going to say insert speaker one marker and record. Now, it's worth noting that WordPerfect is so friendly with their macro feature that we can even copy macros, go in and edit them. So literally, once we make speaker one, we can copy that macro, paste it, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, go in, change speaker one to speaker two, and save the macro, change the name, assign a different key. So literally that feature is going to save us a tremendous amount of time. Okay, so what we want is an indent. So I believe in WordPerfect indent is F7. So that's 5, but I want a 10 space indent. So I'm going to do F7 again. And then we're going to, let's see, if text begins here. Speaker 1, colon, space, enter, F7, tab. Okay, so I'm going to stop that macro. And really, if we write the macros and just change it to speaker 2, speaker 3, speaker 4, speaker 5, all you have to do is do a find and replace for, in all caps, speaker 1 colon, and replace it with the chord, replace it with Mr. Phillips, whatever. Okay. So let's go and assign a hotkey to this. So tools, settings, customize, keyboards, edit. Now we find, and I'm going to try to look for the numeric number 1. I'm going to see if I can do Alt 1. I like to try to keep things the same. So if I'm going to use Alt, then I want to use Alt all the way through.
Your hands also get more accustomed to doing that.
You're right, Kim. You're so right. Oh, there's Meredith, Deborah. Okay. Okay, so the Alt 1 is selected. Hi, Deborah. And now we're going to go to macros, assign macro to key, and insert speaker 1 marker, select, save with full path, yes, okay, close. I'm going to do enter, and I'm going to do Alt 1. Whoop, whoop.
Awesome.
I love me some macros. They are so powerful, and you can write these macros, and once they're written, they are good as gold. You can even save your macros because WordPerfect makes it easy to, they save all their macros in one place, and you can go to tools, macro, and let's say you want to play a macro, it's tools, macro, play. That's if you don't have a hotkey. I am all about hotkeys, just like you ladies are. So you probably will never do it this way, but you can also go to macro manager and you can say, okay, well, let me see if I want to change my macro. And you can go and look at the various macros that are there. Look, Kim, your macros are there. Okay, see, there's the speaker. Okay, so look at how simple this macro is. Let me see if I can widen it. That is the macro. It's so easy. So easy.
And can you edit it in there at that point right there, or do you have to go to a different stage to be able to edit?
I think you might be able to edit it, but I'm not sure because it says save changes, which tells me that you can edit it. But, oh, you would have to click on edit here. Okay, that makes good sense. So
I was thinking if you had incorrectly put in an extra indent or an extra return and you just needed to change it somehow, that would be.
You
With this-
could absolutely do that. And when you're finished, you just do save and compile
Okay.
and you're good. And so making a copy of a macro and renaming it like is the easiest thing to do, to make multiple macros so that you have speaker say 1 through 10 done. So you can just do Alt 1, Alt 2, Alt 3, Alt 4, and Alt 0 for 10. You know, after that you might have to be a little bit more creative, like, I guess you could just as easily do speaker 11 through 20, just as easily. Let's talk about reveal codes, since we're right here in reveal codes and we have these beautiful reveal codes right here in front of us. One of the things that I love, and I think I'm repeating myself, I love reveal codes. And I love reveal codes because it shows you everything. It really tells you everything about your document. I'm going to try to go and open a document that is actually more of a transcript. Okay, great. Now we can really talk about reveal codes, right? Look at that. Look at all those codes. It tells you every little thing. What I do, I use the arrow keys to move within the reveal codes window. And when I see that something's wrong, or really more like funky, like it just doesn't look right. And for me, that's almost always spacing. I don't know if it's because I'm an artist, but everything has to make sense when I look at it. And sometimes things don't make sense to me. Like if you've got, for the state under appearances, you have Ms. Leah Mayo, you can see that that's either double spaced or space and a half. Well, I would want for the defendant to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the kinds of things that bother me. So when I'm looking at a transcript, I'm looking for consistency. I'm looking for it to make sense in my mind and to make sense with my eyes. And so I don't always know what people want, but I know what I like. And so oftentimes I'll go in and just look at it and say, well, this doesn't really make too much sense right here. I don't understand why there's a blank space right here. So I would say, well, either you didn't fill in what the court said right there, or the court didn't say anything at all. And I don't understand why there's an extra space, so I would remove it. This must be a shell. Yeah, that somebody sent me. It's not an entire transcript. This is what people send me when I'm setting up their style so that I can see how their speakers behave. One of the problems with this is that there's no Q&A. So I would have had to call back and say, what does your Q&A look like? So that I could set that so that it comes up right every time. As far as macros, is there anything else that you would like to see me do in macros? Because I'm happy to do anything for you guys.
Something that is bigger, like the swearing in, is that how you would do it, is in the macro? Well, do you understand what I'm saying? Like this one where it says Joshua Aldridge, defendant after first being duly sworn, testified as follows, so that it can always pop up like that when you put it in.
I would probably create a macro that started with the comma after the name.
Right.
and I might even create something like alt comma. You know what I mean? And literally, so that I would type in Joshua Aldridge, I would do alt comma, and it would write defendant comma after first being duly sworn comma, new line, testified as follows, colon, new line, center, examination, new line, by the court, colon, new line, tab, Q, in
So it does
macro.
all of that.
I would do all of it because macros can handle it. I'll tell you something else, and I don't remember how to do this feature, but I can learn again. And that is that macros in WordPerfect can pause for you to do something.
I don't remember.
Isn't that awesome? Now, I don't know how to do that. It's a little more complex, but if I learn it, I'll do a little video and I'll send it to all three of you so that you can see, because I've had it embedded in documents that I've received before. And it's so cool to be able to add a pause in a macro so that you can do whatever it is you need to do, like type in the witness's name. And then you just hit some sort of terminator key that finishes the macro.
Yep.
So I'm definitely going to figure that out on my time, do a little video for y'all and send it to you, because I think you could definitely use that.
Hey, Adria.
Yes.
Hi, it's Deborah. I'm sorry I was a few minutes late.
No problem. Glad you could join us.
Thank you. So I do have a question since you're on this screen. Those little markings that are on the far left, the second one down near line 11, what does that kind of stuff mean? I'm sorry, I see it from time to time in WordPerfect. And yeah, I don't know what that means. Oh.
That's a good question. What's this? Why isn't it answering me?
I usually try to import plain text or stuff like that into something that's stripped of all codes if I'm going to use WordPerfect, but I just never know what those mean. If it's a mystery, it's okay.
Well, look at what it is.
Right.
You know what it is? It's tab settings.
Oh.
It's alerting you that tab settings have changed.
Okay. Okay.
So that is something I would delete.
Gotcha.
And I would delete it because tab settings just screw everything up.
Yeah.
So I don't want any tab settings. So when I see that, I would make it go away. Now I'm curious about this little thing here.
Your bubble. Mm-hmm.
You see that one?
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Header, footer, watermark. What's this? Well, we know what's this isn't going to tell us anything. I don't know if this is the very latest version of WordPerfect.
Oh, nice.
I literally just got it 3 days ago. So there are some things that are different that I'm not quite sure of. But so it's telling me that maybe there's a header footer there, or maybe I should put a header footer there. Very odd indeed. I wonder if it's allowing me to create a watermark, but it's not. It's almost like it's suggesting something.
Right. It's like a little thought bubble or information bubble.
Yes, that's what it looks like. I apologize. I don't know for sure what it is. And because it's not telling me, I'm not quite sure, but it seems like it's making a suggestion.
Okay. Well, again, I don't see them very often, but yeah, once in a while.
Yeah, these all seem to be tab settings.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I would delete those because
Excellent.
they seem to be random throughout the document.
Mm-hmm.
And while it looks beautiful, so I guess it's okay. And since it's on the cover page, I guess it's okay. WordPerfect responds very differently than Microsoft Word in one way. That is that Microsoft, if you go in and you set the margin, that margin is either for the whole document or from there on out, the change. Whereas in WordPerfect, wherever you put the command, that's where the command starts. And the command will go on forever until you stop it. It's like Word in that way, only Word is not location specific.
Okay.
WordPerfect is. So like if you put something on a page, and let's say you change the font in the middle of the page, well, that font's going to be changed just right there and on down.
But in WordPerfect, it is also easier to find where you're kind of going off script because of the reveal codes.
You are so right. You are so right. And that is a lovely thing. The fact that it's telling us that there's something different here is pretty cool, because Word does not tell you that, you know, and this is obviously informing you. View tab settings. Yep. That's what it is.
Yep. There you
That's
go.
absolutely what it is. So it's the tab settings. Every time the tab settings change, we seem to have one of these little arrows with the text. So that's interesting. But I've never seen it when you just use tabs. So they have to be tabs you set, not just regular tabs that you use in the document. It has to be tabs that you go in and set. And I don't even know how to do that. I know that you can probably do it up here, because these little, can you see these little, I would call them sideways triangles?
Mm-hmm.
Those are representing the tab marks. So every time you see one of these, something's different about the tabs. I don't know what, but something's got to be different, because that's the way WordPerfect works, is it only shows you something that's relevant. Otherwise, it won't even have anything to show you. See, this is a 24-line transcript. This was a 24-line transcript. And where's this? In Georgia. No, it must be wrong. Georgia does 25.
I was gonna say, if that's 24, her judge is gonna be mad.
Exactly, because that's not something that WordPerfect, that Georgia does, is 24.
No,
It must be,
25.
it must be because it was a just a sample that somebody sent me
Okay.
to do their cover pages. Because normally I would be like, I don't know about that. One of the things that I see here, you see how the end of the page is way down here, but the line numbers stop, and that's because there's a hard page break. Hard return. And S page, I think, means that you basically did Control Enter to stop the page there.
And that's what I do at the end of where it says proceedings concluded at, and then when I'm going to put my certificate as the very last page, that would be, so it may be 25 lines if it weren't for the hard
return. Yes, I believe that you're right. Yeah. Okay, anyway, let's move on. We've got a lot to cover. Okay. Any other questions about macros? Macros are so fun. We did assigning the key to the macro. Remember, you have all this video on YouTube, so don't worry about If you didn't get all the notes, you can watch it again and again and again until you're sick of my voice.
Never. I just appreciate being able to refer back to it.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Okay, settings that make WordPerfect easier to work with. Okay, remember how I was telling you that WordPerfect is orientation oriented? In other words, wherever you put in the command, that's where that command starts. When I am creating macros for a customer, what I do is I set it up so that, let's say that on the first page, you don't want any line numbers. Well, I set it up so that there are no line numbers. And then in order to format the second page, I normally do a Control F for find, and I type in appearances. Then I can go to appearances and have it run the macro to format the appearances page. And so my point here is that some people, and this seems to be reporter preference. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Some judges have opinions, but it seems to be that mostly reporters decide if they want a page to have a title. The first page doesn't have to have a title because we start on the first page, obviously. So we would run the first page macro, which would import your shell. Like, I generally create a shell for you if you have a federal box or the graphic lines. So I'll make that and then I'll import it. That's the first thing I do on the cover page. And then I look for the word appearances. So it gets me to that page. Generally on the appearances page is where I start my line numbering. I'm sorry, page numbering. And then I go to the index and I make sure that everything looks right on the index. I usually don't have much to do. And because I don't think, well, some people do, some people don't put line numbers on the index. And then I do Control F and I go to the next, what might be stipulations. It might be, it might just be the proceedings starting. And so I would do Control F and I would type in proceedings and that would take me to that page. And that's normally where I start my line numbering. And then I do, once I turn on line numbering, make sure I've got 25 lines per page, because if I don't, then I'm going to mess with the margins just in that section. Make the margins maybe smaller at the top, smaller at the bottom, so that I can fit all 25 lines, or larger if it's giving me 26 lines or whatever. So, after I make sure proceedings is right, I do Control F, I search for certificate, and that takes me to the certificate page. That is where I generally turn off line numbering and I leave page numbering on. No, that's about all I do for the certificate. And then if there's an errata, I do Control F, I go to the errata, I make sure the errata is looking great, all on one page, not split up. And then I do Control F and I go to the reporters page if there is one. If not, I wrap it up. And the last thing I do when I create what I call my super macro is I do Control Home, so that when my macro is finished running all of these macros, it goes all the way back to the top of the document, so that you, the reporter, can then scan your document and make sure that everything is looking exactly as you wanted to. I feel like I didn't really explain very well the multiple macro thing. What I do is I go and create a macro for, let's say, inserting the shell. The shell looks exactly the way you always want your documents to look. It's got your federal box, it's got your page number in the upper right, it's got maybe your footer, it's got everything you want. And it's a standard document, and you only use it as a template. You bring it in. That's the first thing I do for anybody is I go in and I bring in the shell. And remember that once the shell is in, the shell should have my line spacing and my line height all already decided. Because in my shell, I try to make all of that, like I try to make sure that, like for this wouldn't be acceptable because there's not 25 lines per page. So I wouldn't be happy with this as a shell. I wouldn't use it. I would start again. I would start from scratch, especially when I see things like all of these here. And I don't know what they are. I don't want that. I want to start so fresh because I want your template, your shell to be perfect so that every time it comes in, it would look something like this, but like it wouldn't have a name here, right? It would just be blank, or it would be like a lot of people like to do, put it in asterisks so that they can just do control find asterisk defendant asterisk, and every place in the transcript that you have the defendant would automatically put in that name. So you would, when you're making your shell, you would go ahead and this is what we do in SpeechCat, only SpeechCat does it all for you. But this way you could say, okay, well, where's the file number? I can go and find that. You really don't have to do it. You know where the file number belongs, but you can do it. The charges, I would take this out. If I was making this a shell, I would take out everything that is not, everything that's specific to one case. I would take that out. And I would leave it as ready as possible. But for instance, this is the type of proceeding. So if I wanted you to come in and fill that out, that's what I'd call it. So that you could come in and do guilty plea right here. If your ADA is pretty much always the same, I'd leave her there. And for the defendant, that's going to change a lot. So I'd probably take that one out. I would definitely take out the date because that's going to change. Asterisk, date, asterisk. The place may change or may not. If your courtroom is in Rome, Georgia, then it's always going to be in Rome, Georgia. Now if you're a floating reporter, then I take that back. It's not always going to be Rome, Georgia. These days there are, like in South Carolina, I don't know, poor South Carolina, I don't know if they're still having the problems they were having a few years ago, but they were so desperate for reporters that they were having reporters drive tremendous distances to get everything covered with all of their judges. It was really rough on them. And so there is a possibility that you would need this to change. If you do, all I do is I say anything that changes has to have asterisks around it. That tells me, hey, Adria, you haven't finished your job because you haven't put in the date, you haven't put in the city taken, you haven't put in your type of proceeding, you haven't done any of that. And so commencing at approximately, you already have an asterisk there, but I would probably put start time because I like a start and an end time. So just time wouldn't work for me. So I do start time. Then you would have be it remembered, blah, blah, blah. If your judge is always the same, leave his name there. If you work with multiple judges, then you'd highlight it and you'd just do asterisk Judge asterisk. Well, would help if there. So you get the idea. That's how I build a shell. And even if you aren't a customer, if you need a shell designed, you can send me what you want it to look like and I can design your shell for you. I'm happy to do that. It usually doesn't take very long, you know. And let's see. This is all the same because that's the reporter information. Then here you would put date taken again. Like that. Courtroom probably might change, I guess, from C to D to E, whatever. Okay. Okay. I want to show you how to find and replace codes. So let's say, like for instance, right here, if I draw your attention to the bottom of the WordPerfect screen, you will see widow orphan. Now it says ignore widow orphan off. We definitely never want to ignore widow orphan off because we don't ever want widow orphan on. So let's just go ahead and remove all the widow orphans. So I'm going to do Control F to find. Let me bring this up so it's in the center. Okay, so I want to remove the widow orphan command because it is the devil. No court reporter wants ever to have a widow orphan command. What a widow orphan command does is it says, hey, this paragraph is not complete. And since you want every paragraph to be on one page, we're going to just move this whole paragraph to the next page. You know, not in transcription, you know, not in a transcript. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to match codes. And if you just type in WID, it will bring up the widow orphan command, and you just click on insert and see how it inserted this. It looks different. It's in brackets with / orf. So I'm going to replace that with nothing. I want it replaced throughout my document. So I'm going to do replace all. 4 occurrences have been replaced. That's great. You always want to get rid of widow orphan because it will mess up your line numbers on your transcript, because it will mess up how many lines are on a page, not the line numbers.
Do you need to do that from page 1, or you can replace them all from anywhere?
You can replace them all from anywhere as long as your preferences, my preferences are global. So
Okay.
my preferences are set so that wherever I start, it goes through the whole document, then comes back.
Excellent. Thank you.
Sure.
What causes I remember widow orphans being the nightmare. I've not run into one in all the time I've been in the courts now, but before with freelance I did. What causes them to appear? I don't remember.
Well,
Is it in
you know,
there?
Kim, the reason you don't remember what causes them to appear is because I never taught you that, because I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know why widow orphan is ever turned on. Now, I can tell you that the military used to use it extensively. The military never wanted to see a paragraph broken. Never. So a question could not be broken. Furthermore, in the military, the answer had to be with the question.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, wow. Because, you know, you could have a verbose ADA or trial counsel, as they call it in the military, just going on and on and on. And what happens then if you have a large answer that doesn't fit on the same page because the question was big too? You know, they told me in that case they would make an exception, but they wouldn't be happy about it. So there.
Yeah.
So widow orphan is something that is used commonly in literature. So like you'll see it in a book. Like if you're reading a book, you'll find that not every page, you can't tell because the pages aren't line numbered, but not every page of a book has a line, has the same number of lines on every page. And that's because they do that for emphasis and to keep it together. So that is why maybe it's there. I think it was in some old shells, quite frankly. And people share the shells, the templates, and they just didn't know, that it was there. And God help them, they probably had a lot of problems, because of widow orphan. So that's why I like to talk about it, because it's a little thing that causes huge issues. If ever you do not have the line numbers, if you don't have on the same page the same amount of line numbers on every page, you've probably got a widow orphan issue. That's the first thing I check. Okay, got that done. We're rocking and rolling, ladies. Okay, let's talk about a watermark and graphics. So a watermark, as you probably know, is generally gray, very light gray image that is literally behind the text. So you're basically typing over it. This is not something that I've ever seen, ever done in a transcript, except for CAT systems who put a watermark on your finished transcript so you can't actually turn it in, and it says student version or something like that. That's the only time that I've seen watermarks used, except if you want to add a watermark that is, say, a graphic box. So let's do that. We're going to go insert. We're going to go to watermark, and I'm going to create watermark A, and I'm going to go insert. I'm going to go find a picture. There's an insert image. There we go. Insert from file. There we go. So there's our little round logo that we use sometimes. And all you have to do now that you've got the logo there is close out of the watermark. And now I can type as usual. And I'll eventually type right over the watermark. Now let's say that you want to add a box. So we're going to go insert. I usually put the boxes, I put all graphics inside the header and footer, because that's the only way that the graphics aren't going to move around. and you don't want to have to deal with all that. So it's best to put it in a as a watermark. I'm going to do another watermark. Insert watermark, and I'm going to do create, and I'm going to do insert graphics custom box, and I'm going to go to a text box. Okay. You know what happened there? Okay, let's see. Here's my box. I need to make it bigger, but not that big. I want a border. Position. Okay, there. My box is a little bit more reasonable. Oops. Now what I want is I want my box to be a little bit outside of my margins, because I don't want my, I don't want my text butting up against it. I don't like that. And so I make sure that my box is indeed outside my margins, left and right, top and bottom. I don't worry about so much. Let's see. I think that you can do wrap text. Let's see. In front, no, behind text. So this will always be behind the text. And now I can close out. And there is my beautiful box. And you can do that as a macro as well if you want. That way you don't have to create the box every time. You just do, Alt B for box, and boom, it's there. So that's really neat. And you can do the same things with graphic lines. See, I would have to discontinue this watermark in order to do a new one. So let me just show you. I would just go to my last line, which I don't know why it's 24. And now we go format, nope, insert watermark. And I'm going to do watermark B, discontinue. Oh, there must be watermark A. Watermark A, discontinue. Okay. And now I can go insert watermark B, create, and I'm going to go insert graphics pictures, and I'm going to do custom box again, but I would probably do, I don't think that it's custom box. I think I usually create the graphic lines box myself because they don't tend to have so normally the boxes come in small. I'm wondering if I can change my text box to an image. No. Ah, they make it simple for me. They have a border with lines left and right only. And I'm just doing 0.5 because my box just went crazy and it's off the page. So I'm just putting it back on the page. And when I change the configuration, oops. There we go. And all I had to do was go to border up here at the top and click on it and choose what I want it to look like. I can make it look like anything I want. I can do the L hairline. There, so there's our graphic lines. We would just close and boom. There's our graphic line. Must have created a second box. Yep, it's in my header. A watermark. View. I have to go back to insert watermark. Is it not coming up? Oh, I was able to delete it. Okay. Oh, but then I'd have to delete it on every page. Yeah, I'd just go back and delete it. Very good. So because I didn't like stop the box on this page, I have the box and the graphic lines. I'll just get rid of one and I'm fine. And there you go, ladies. That's my dog and pony show for tonight. Any questions, any specific questions or anything I can help you with?
Adria, I was going to say, you mentioned that you don't see watermarks a lot, especially in the court reporting world. But I don't know which of the other ladies, if they're depot reporters or court, whatever it is. But attorneys being the preachers that they are, when they when they request a read and sign, but they haven't purchased a copy, a watermark is a really good way to ensure that they don't try to present that at trial as the transcript because they have not bought that. And so if you're ever doing a read and sign, especially in COVID and Zoom world, and you want to send it to someone for a read and sign to do the errata, a watermark is a good way to ensure that they are not going to take your product and use it at trial.
Let me ask you, first of all, thank you for mentioning that because you are so right. And I have seen that. I have seen that over the years. And you're right. When I first started with AudioScribe, when we first started AudioScribe and I started learning about court reporting, one of the first things I saw was a real transcript that had colored graphic lines. They were blue. And I said, oh, this is pretty, why are the lines blue? And he said, well, that's very important. The lines are blue to show you that it's not a photocopy.
Right.
Because they don't have the right to photocopy. So if they photocopy, it's obvious if the lines are not blue.
That's correct. That was then.
That
Things
was
are
then.
different.
And
Yeah.
now we can do watermarks. We can get all fancy and do watermarks.
Yeah.
And I think that that is a wonderful thing to do. What I wanted to ask you is, do you normally do it in a color or do you do it in gray?
It would normally be just a light gray on the background, just grayed out, because you don't want to obscure the text of the transcript itself, but a light gray. And also the thing that has changed recently, well, in recent years, is I used to always sign everything in blue, because if you make a photocopy, it's going to come out black. And so I would always sign my name in blue so that it couldn't be mistaken for the original.
I
But
like
if
that.
if I were doing a read and sign, and I wanted a watermark, it would be a very light gray on the, just something to say, not official copy or something like that.
Okay. And so help me out. When you photocopy, even if it's a light gray, won't it really make it difficult to read?
No, it doesn't
Not
make it
anymore.
difficult. No, it doesn't make it difficult. And so if I'm sending it out for that,
I mean,
attorney-
only if you copy it, if you photocopy it. Like,
If you
let's say you
photocopy-
send the attorney the one with the watermark
right,
and he photocopies it.
watermark's going to be there.
Yeah, but what I'm asking is, it used to be way back in the day, if there was a watermark, then the text would then become hard to read because the watermark would be darker on the copy than it is
That's
in the
quite
original.
possible. That's quite possible. I've never tried it from that end, but that's quite possible.
Yeah, that's what I was told a long time ago, that that is why they do it, so that they can tell in court if it's a real one or not.
Well, yeah, and if you show up, I mean, again, if you take my transcript that you did not pay for, and you try to approach the witness with that transcript, that's not the official record. And so I've actually been in the room with multiple attorneys on a case, and we're ready to go, we're packing up, and one guy will say, "Oh, so Doug, you're going to get one? Yeah, just have your assistant send me a copy of what you're paying for." You literally just took money out of my pocket in front of me. You just stole from me. And so it's very important for us who produce transcripts to make sure there's no sharing in the room. If you want to copy an official copy to use for court, you got to buy one.
Right.
You got to buy it from me.
Right.
Yeah. So the watermark and locking it is another way that some reporters can ensure that that attorney is not going to boost their product and use it as evidence.
Exactly. That's a very good point. And I think that is a great reason to use a watermark.
Yeah, it is.
And it's a great reason to even make your watermark slightly darker.
I love it.
Because then, and I would be curious, I'd go find a copy machine and copy it and see and say, oh, that's not dark enough.
Yeah, that's an interesting experiment. I may have to try it.
I think you should. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I appreciate you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And if you have
Thank
any
you so much.
questions, please don't hesitate to ask them or email me or call me.
And how do we access this on YouTube?
I'm
Yeah.
going to send you a link,
Okay.
and all you have to do is click on it. And once you get to it, then you can subscribe, and that way you can go back to it as many times as you want. And subscribe is just hitting a button.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
that's all you
much.
have to do.
I appreciate you doing this.
Oh, no problem. I think that it's always nice to be able to go back and listen to a class again, because inevitably I will miss something. And so when I go back and I listen again, I find little tidbits that I didn't think I heard. So I think it's important. So I'm always happy to do that for you ladies. And you'll receive just another email from me, and it will have the link on it. It will have a certificate saying that you attended this class. And there will also be the outline that you should submit with your certificate, a copy of, and you can make copies of your certificate. Everything is in PDF.
Okay.
So you can forward it, you can make copies, you can do whatever you need to do with it. And if you need to print it out in color, because the certificates are in color. So you have the right to print it out as much as you like. It's all for you.
Yeah, are your classes listed under the Georgia site, or should I just go ahead and submit my certificates as a class that, I don't know if you're pre-approved?
I don't think I pre-approved for these classes,
Okay,
but Georgia accepts everything from me.
very good. I'm gonna submit mine probably next week. I did double last year, so I didn't need any for this year, but I'm gonna submit mine probably next week, and hopefully I won't have any issues. But your classes have been awesome, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Deborah. I appreciate that very much. I very much enjoy teaching.
It shows, it shows.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, ladies, have a wonderful, wonderful night, and happy holidays, and Merry
Thank you.
Christmas.
Same
Merry
to you.
Christmas.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.